Okay, we are now recording, folks. So if you're watching and you're going to come on, this is going to be recorded. And if you want to, you can get the video and do whatever you want with it. My name is Charles Webster. We have Jared Johnson and Christina Fisher and Jimmy Legan, but I call him Jimmy Vanagan because that's his Twitter account. And I'm sort of moderating, but I'm really more of a technical moderator. I've brought in a professional moderator here, Jared. But my motivation is I just love Periscope. I love Blab. I love all this live interactive video stuff. And the more mobile and the more in the moment, the better. By the way, over my shoulder right there, see that picture? That is a picture of the Washington Monument. It is a sunrise, and I periscope the sunrises from the Lincoln Memorial. And I am Wareflow, WAREFLO, on both Blab here and on Twitter and on Periscope. So, okay, at this point, I think it's time, and I'll Jared, I think you'll can turn around and treat me as a guest, treat Christina and Jimmy as guests, and kind of what's the word? Manage the workflow of this Blab, and it is all up to you now, Jared, to continue to make this an incredible success that I've already established that it has a potential to be.
Well, that's a great passing of the baton if I've ever heard one there, and a nice way to workflow into every conversation here. I love it. And yeah, thanks again. I'm Jared Johnson. I'm a digital marketing consultant with Altera Digital. I also host the Health IT Marketer podcast, which is available at healthitmarketer.com, and that's what we're actually recording this episode for. It's our, hey, we're just trying it out. We're like Chuck said, Chuck has done some blabbing. I did my first one last week, just kind of a test, actually setting up for this. And we are just hoping to really just talk about National Health IT Week and just get some thoughts from folks. So, I mean, as far as housekeeping goes, I will probably be occupying one of the chairs here for the majority, if not all the time. We wanted to make sure Christina had some time as well and thank her for getting this event listed on the official National Health IT Week list of activities, and for her support and joining us as well. And we wanted to make sure she'll have plenty of time as well. There's some great topics on just EPM, health-driven data-driven management that we wanted to let her have some time to speak about. And then we've got Jimmy Legan here as well, and we wanted to welcome him. So I don't know if we have any newbies here. Like I said, this is only my second one. So as far as housekeeping goes, looks like we're just happy that we've got all four chairs filled at this time. When Chuck and I first started thinking about this, we thought, hey, maybe it would just be him and me, but we're glad to see others are joining us and viewing. So we will make sure to leave some time for anyone who is interested in occupying a chair here. You'll certainly have a few minutes just to share those types of things. We were just going to kind of kick it off and say, hey, are there any activities that you've participated in or been able to view as part of National Health IT Week so far, and just how it's been going and what's stuck out? Maybe that's a great place to start. I'll just open it up to anybody.
I'll start if that's okay. I'm clear out in Montana, Great Falls, Montana, a few miles from the D.C. area, and Chuck's been just wonderful at periscoping some of the events that have been occurring there in the D.C. area. So, a guy like me that's not able to get away from the practice, this new technology, Periscope, the blabbing, I think is a wonderful way to exchange ideas. And I wasn't able to see all the periscopes that Chuck did in their entirety, but I was able to catch bits and pieces and able to communicate in real time and give my thoughts as the speakers were speaking, which I thought was just a fantastic way of using the technology and seeing stuff that's happening in the here and now. So that has been just a wonderful treat this week to be able to experience that. So thank you, Chuck, for doing that. And a lot of good stuff coming out from that area, a lot of good conversations, a lot of good thoughts and such. So
Yeah, so true confessions on my part. I am not a huge social media user, and Chuck has been pushing me to get me more involved. So this week, I've gone out on a limb and I've been tweeting and trying to be more engaged on that front, because I'm excited about talking about the potential for IT to really help this during this historic transformation of our healthcare system. And so my first Blab, my first real Twitter engagement, and excited to be a part of the conversation. Thanks.
Very nice. So how has that been, if you don't mind me asking? You say that this isn't something you necessarily do on a daily basis. Has it been okay for you to try out a little bit more social media?
I think if it seems my initial reaction, honestly, is it's a little high maintenance, but I also see the attraction, and I can see the excitement of being able to engage in a real time fashion with people. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to try and stick with it.
Excellent. Well, Chuck, maybe I'll throw it back to you here. Did you want to have some comments here on just some of the activities you have been periscoping this week, and maybe just dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I happen to live here in Washington, D.C., so and while if you look at the list of NHIT week activities, they're virtual. You don't have to be in D.C., but obviously federal policy drives a lot of things, and so anyway, yesterday I went to the second annual National Health IT Collaborative for the Underserved, and I was there in the morning. Those were the periscopes, and so and its topics in the morning were precision medicine and health IT innovation and research, and I'm not going to. There was some interesting workflow stuff. But I'm actually kind of, as exciting as that is, I'm actually almost to the point here where I'm looking over and to see, does anybody want to take a seat? But wait a minute, I do want to point out something. I'm always trying to encourage more workflow technology in healthcare. And Christina is writing a 5-part series about workflow technology and business process management. And I want her to speak about that for about a minute, give the URL, how to get to it. And then at that point, I think I'm going to recuse myself. Even though I'm technically running things, I've determined that if I leave my seat, the Blab will continue to run. And is there anybody, I'm going to leave that seat open and let someone else take it. But Christina, tell us a little bit about your series.
So in honor of National Health IT Week, we thought at Appian, it'd be a good idea to feature different aspects of how process and data and the unifying those two in an intelligent workflow can add to the effectiveness of healthcare in our country. And so we've got today is the third of 5 posts at www.appian.com/blog, and there's a ton of information there, but just trying to branch out and start the conversation or participate in the conversation a little bit more about really the need for closer collaboration between the people, access to the data across all of the stakeholders involved in maintaining personal health. So our goal is to show, obviously we have a product that we're selling, but really want to get people talking about the need for this collaboration, bridge the gap between providers and the practitioner, the payers. They need to be able to collaborate. It's not a game where someone has to be the winner. It's a game where the winner is overall population health and individual member health. And if we focus on that, then both the payer and the provider and the member win. It's a win-win-win situation.
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave my seat open, and so whoever wants to occupy it, I think maybe toward the end, maybe around 1:50, it'd be great if maybe Christina and maybe Jimmy, if you're still available, because he's a working doc. He actually changed his patient schedule to be present, and maybe Jared, you could invite us back in if there aren't like a continuing stream of people who are begging to sit on the hot seat. So hopefully I've tested this morning. There's a little X on my square, and I'm going to hit it, and then the seat should be available.
And then,
all right, cross your fingers.
And if it's okay, I'll just give you just a couple of minutes why I thought I'd just give a little presentation. I'm, like Chuck said, I'm a practicing doc. I've been in practice for 22 years, and I fought tooth and nail implementing the electronic record. Finally did begrudgingly at the end of November 2011, but I've had a really fast and rapid learning curve since then. And I think I've been able to adapt and adopt several tools in the examination room at the interface with the patient, where the electronic record, the information, the data, the doc, and the patient all intersect. And I think I've had some success. I'm not trying to sell anything. What I'm trying to convey is just an idea of what works on the ground here in a small town of about 50,000 in rural Montana, and that if some of the stuff that I've learned along the way may help a few others in my predicament, that would be wonderful. So that's my thought, is that I have this, what I call projected EHR, where I share the electronic record visually in real time, not unlike what we're doing here. I use the electronic record instead of a primary documenting tool, more of a wonderful educational tool. I have HL7 imported data, hemoglobin A1Cs, cholesterol levels, all graphed out over 4 years of time at a click of a button. Both the patient and I get it. We can see the response of blood pressure, weight correlations, weight reductions, the need for blood pressure by blood pressure graphs over time. So it's a visual imaging of the electronic record that we use as an educational tool together. And they also help with their own documentation process. So they see what actually goes in the chart, helps me modify it, correct it, edit it real time, and they see it. And then I've got over 800 patients using a patient portal too. So integrated with the patient portal, the visualization of the electronic record as an educational tool, very inexpensive to do. With local IT support, I think most every doc in the country could implement this rather easily if they so choose to. The question I would have, would the electronic record that they use visualize nicely and be understood? The electronic record I use, I don't sell it. I'm not trying to sell it, but it works wonderfully in this manner because it really is easy to understand and it's intuitive, easy to use for me, easy to project and use for the patient. So that's my spiel. That's my 5 minutes, and I'll vacate my seat if people want to come on as well. But thank you all for having me, and I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Jimmy, and thanks. In fact, we had a question for you, I think, before you go from author Charisse M. And she just asked, how easy is it to educate patients on the use of it? Maybe do you have a second to answer that before you go?
Absolutely. It's really quite easy. What I do is I have my own system that I work up. I usually start out with the vitals, the patient's own vitals, and I've been doing this for 4 years now. 4 years of vitals mapped out over time. So we start out with the blood pressure, body mass index, blood pressures over time, and then we work over to the past medical history section. So a lot of times these patients may come in once a year, several times a year. The chronicity of problems are all delineated nicely under the past medical history section. So once a year, we at least go through those together. I modify, edit, add as we are in real time. I do all my own medication reconciliation with the patient. We go over that, make sure it's accurate. I print that up to a actual piece of paper with a laser printer that I have in each exam room, or I send that right to the portal, their own portal, or do it both, whatever they prefer. I go over the the allergies as well, do the social history, family history. We do that, easy to see, so it's very easy to go over all that. But the teaching aspect, I've got up-to-date embedded in the electronic record, so I can go to up-to-date, print up, go over information on up to date. We can go over all their own lab reports. Oftentimes I'll send their lab reports several days before the office visit so that they've had time to think about it, compared it last year, jot notes down so we can use that time wisely, and we can learn from what their trending has been over time with each individual lab result. So yes, it's very easy to learn together with. I can understand it.
All right, let's see if that's any better. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay, I got headsets.
And I don't have headsets or a headphone. How am I coming across?
You sound great.
Okay, and I'm using a Chromebook, HP Chromebook.
So this is turning into a real technology discussion now.
Yes, real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound great, Christina. Very
okay,
clear.
Good. And so no one else has any feedback now, but we still can't hear Jarrett or Stephen Davidson. I think there was some thinking that that my not using a headphone was causing some of the echo. So it'd be interesting to see if we could verify if that was the case or not.
Now, is Stephen able to talk now? Stephen, do you want to give a try and see how you come across now?
I've removed my headset. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're better.
Excellent. Oh, okay, maybe that that guy that showed up and told me my headset sucked, and who was a sound engineer for YouTube. Do something. hey, Stephen, can you get rid of your headset? Maybe it'll help. Now, isn't it weird? Christina's better when she put her headset on. You were good always, and now I'm better without my headset.
Yeah, you sound great now, Chuck. And Christina sounds great too, I think.
Okay, all right. Where were we?
Anybody hear me?
Oh, yeah, we got you now.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So
you are super clear.
Great, thanks. So the short version is that with the nurses, we got great participation. We got great validation of workflows. We implemented, it was fantastic. With the docs, despite the fact that we put up enough money to pay for the same hours of doc time at the doc's hourly rate, we did not get as good participation. Hence, even though we tried to validate the workflows more broadly in the group, what we ultimately ended up implementing was peculiar to or particular to certain people's workflows rather than a more general approach that would accommodate the 30-odd docs involved. And now this was a dozen years ago. There have been subsequent iterations that have moved things to a more usable approach for documentation, for order sets, for patient teaching related to a specific complaint or diagnosis driven. Again, all of this is emergency department experience. Mm-hmm. When the same vendor's inpatient product was being implemented for documentation, which was kind of my swan song project, I discovered that the flexibility that we'd had in the ER product didn't exist in the inpatient product. And we also didn't have the resources in terms of money to buy the time of people. And here's the thing. The full-time folks in IT, even when they're nurses and physicians and well-intentioned, they've been out of touch with the clinical activity at the front lines. And when you can't bring those frontline people in to validate the workflows, it can be very dicey. So I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely, and I know in our experience, change management and user engagement is key to success on these projects, and it's not always easy to do that. I mean, it's a larger problem than just the technology. It's also agreeing on standardized processes across, an organization, so that when you're trying to move people away from their hey, this is how I do it, and these are my manual processes, and this is what I'm comfortable with, you meet resistance. But this is part of our challenge, that we need to try and make it easier for people to accept the need for some sort of standardization, just so that we can achieve our common goal. We have a new participant.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
You sound okay. Say the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Pick your mic.
I don't know if I can say that, but I'm Dr. Brian Stork, and I'm just jumping on because I've never used the platform before.
We just, oh, there you are. And someone just jumped off. But anyway, Brian, how long have you been listening to us so far? We had sound troubles earlier.
Just for a few minutes, but I really enjoyed that comment about people who aren't familiar with clinical activities designing software solutions. I think that's very relevant.
Brian, do you know Jimmy? And Jimmy, do you know Brian?
Yep.
We've met through Natrice on Periscope while they were at MedX in Stanford. Natrice caught him in a crowd, and we met via technology through the Periscope, and it was a wonderful meeting. And Brian, glad to meet you here through Blab, and I've enjoyed conversing with you on Twitter, and you pushing out some of my blogs, which thank you for doing that, because they're a little crude and a little tough to read, but appreciate all the help.
Hey, Jimmy. Yes. I'm tired of listening to myself talk. You've been here. Can you kind of give us a little bit of in a minute or two, kind of a capsule summary of what Brian might have missed, and then maybe we could get Brian to sort of speak to the issues as he or he as he sees it in terms of what you described.
And you're talking about our conversation so far here in the last few minutes.
Give us a minute or two of what have we been talking about, in your opinion, the important stuff that you think Brian would find interesting, and that Brian might have some useful insight.
Well, this week in DC, there's been a series of meetings, conferences going on about HIT technology that's currently being talked about in the DC area. Chuck's been doing some Periscopes, connecting those conversations through the Periscope world. And there have been several folks this AM talking here on Blab about their perspectives. And I think most of them are from the DC area. Is that right, Chuck? The folks that have been on?
Christina's from Baltimore. Stephen J. Jacobson, who was just here, he's up in Manhattan. I think Jared is out in Phoenix. So it's not. I think there's only two people. I think the National Health IT Week could be viewed as a little bit DC centric, but there are a lot of virtual activities and a lot of things happening online. And so where are you based, Brian?
I'm in Muskegon, Michigan. So you may not know Muskegon, but if you know Milwaukee and you drive straight across Lake Michigan, 60 miles, you'll run straight into Muskegon.
Well, I'll give you mine. National Health IT Week, if you look up healthitweek.org, says that it's a week, it's 10 years old, and it's intended to sort of increase awareness of use of health IT. And certainly in the last couple of years, the amount of tweeting and social media about it has skyrocketed. I think it went from a couple of hundred tweets like 3 or 4 years ago to I think peaks at around 4,000 tweets a day now on the hashtag. I'll give you my 2 cents here. My 2 cents is that, health IT is great, but, we're not necessarily doing health IT as well as we could be. And so obviously we're kicking over rocks and asking opinions, and maybe someone will have the right sort of angle or insight to help us do health IT better. That's kind of my that's why I set up this Blab, is to see if I could scare up some interesting ideas and insights and have some fun, because Periscope and Blab are kind of fun and new.
Well, I think that I think we're all moving as physicians past our initial resistance to health IT, to data entry, and really entering a new era of trying to find a way to really make it work for our patients. I can tell you that we're in the process of qualifying for meaningful use stage 2 right now, and I don't really consider that to be a great use of health information technology. It's just, it's a very taxing, very time-consuming effort simply to qualify. It doesn't seem to benefit our patients. So I think we need to move past this incentive process that's been created and really get down to making this thing, like Facebook or whatever social media platform you like best, that just intrinsically makes sense to you, not something that.
Yeah, I agree. You're blinking. Okay, I'm just checking your video. You're still up. Yeah, I could not agree more. I probably would actually put it more strongly and bluntly and throw in a few scatological terms. But you said it in a diplomatic way, which I think is important to moving forward.
And from my perspective, I've kind of scrapped MU. I just scrapped it from day one and decided to not get any incentive money, take the penalty, and do things that I thought would make sense in the office. And I've done a few really affordable things that I think has really, the things that I've implemented have really benefited my patient. One is, and I think I've mentioned this to you, Brian, on some of the tweets, is that I've turn the electronic record into a visual educational tool, which is absolutely wonderful in real time at the visit with the patient. So we can learn together, use this electronic record and the computer, which is HDMI cord to a large screen, use the computer use it to our advantage, not let it get in it. Not let the computer get it in the way. And I think in terms of what you mentioned about the incentive to do this, turn the electronic record, yes, you put yourself in a vulnerable position as a physician opening up the record in front of the patient, but the advantage is extremely huge. And I think the incentive is that you then can grasp onto a wonderful educational moment, which I think negates any type of incentive. It really brings the patient-doctor relationship back into the educational realm, where the educational tools can actually accentuate the basic doctor-patient relationship. And that's my take, is that I think folks can do this in an affordable way if they just do a few minor modifications at the time of the visit. And then if you incorporate a patient portal on top of that, real-time, immediate connectivity to the office, to the nurse, and then plus a health CRM, so you can actually have functional interoperability, that you can actually operate with multiple offices, hospitals, in real time, so you can have pertinent, up-to-date information, so you can share all that with the patient, like you said, like a Facebook moment. Really works quite well. And I've been doing this for 2 years, and I've been extremely impressed by making a few changes. Now, is it a panacea for everybody? I don't think so. But for the electronic record that I use, for my patients, the nurse that I have works quite well.
Yeah, Jimmy, I have to tell you, I'm loving what you're telling me. I just walked through the kitchen of the surgery center today on my way home, and everybody's got their cell phone out. They're all sharing with each other, pictures of their family and stuff like that. And those are the moments you want to have with your patients, right? You want to be able to take whatever device you have and you want to share it with them and say, hey, look, this is your PSA, and hey,
yes.
Look, and make it exciting and interactive, and not top down and boring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
And I'm just checking the time here. I'm just going to, as long as anybody wants to talk, I'm not going to cut it off at 3:00. At some point, I guess things just will peter out. And I know Jimmy actually carved a hole in his patient schedule to show up here. So I really appreciate Jimmy doing that. And Brian, you're a newbie, you said, but it sounds like your microphone works. So that was better than me earlier. And Jared is so is Christina gone? She can come back and say goodbye here at least if she has a corporate desk job for a workflow technology vendor that does business in healthcare. And I'm just
she got called away.
She got called away.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jimmy, I guess I'll say this. So this was so much fun, and I know Jimmy, when are you going to do I've attended Blabs that Jimmy has done with the Robin
McGee, Dr. Robin McGee. She's a gal from Nova Scotia, and she was diagnosed with colon cancer, colorectal cancer, and wrote a wonderful book called The Cancer Olympics. And we actually, Chuck took time out of his schedule, and we actually interviewed Robin on Blab, which I thought was just a marvelous time of discussion. And she gave her perspective of what happened and things learned along the way. And I've actually got that saved on my Twitter site, on my Blab site, on my Twitter site. So, but that was a lot of fun, Chuck, having that interview and you being involved with that. So I appreciate your time doing that.
Brian, do you have some interesting ideas or plans for interactive video, social media? Does this give you any ideas?
Well, I have to tell you, for those that are listening, you need to follow Jimmy, because Jimmy's like the guru for me. I just keep doing whatever he's doing, and he keeps leading me down brand new directions, and it's really exciting. And I don't know how I'm going to use all this stuff, but it's nice to have the options. And I don't know. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, Brian did a great video using Periscope, and Chuck, if you haven't seen it, you got to go on his site and take a look. He saved it to YouTube, and it's about Ostomy Day, National Ostomy Day, I believe. And he actually wrote a blog, and then he interviewed. I think your nurse while he was doing an interview, did a wonderful, and I think it was his first Periscope. Actually, well done, and I would highly recommend taking a look at that. So I hope to see more of those, Brian. I thought you did a fantastic job with that.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. Chuck, you might be the sixth person to watch the YouTube video.
Well, I think we're gonna quit while we're ahead. I just got a nice Mach 7 text, and thanks again. We look forward to the next one. Jared is saying we had such good luck with the audio that he doesn't want to jump back in, so that kind of leaves it up to me. And I'll just wrap it up. This was totally experimental. I think it was a lot of fun, and obviously now Brian didn't see this, but earlier on, some people weren't using headsets, and then there was terrible whatever echo, and then they put on headsets, and it was better. I was using a headset, there was echoes, I took it off. Jimmy's the only person who has had the most consistent experience. I believe I followed you, Brian. If I haven't, I will do so, and I'll look forward to other Blabs. And I guess I said, I was just going to let things peter out, but there is also an element of letting people get back to their lives and know that if they're going to participate in a Blab, that it begins and ends on time. So I want to thank Jared Piano, and keeping the conversation going. I think he does podcasts, so maybe he'll end up interviewing Jimmy and Brian. And Mach 7 and Patient Safe Solutions were here. Stephen J. Davidson, MD, CMIO of Major Medical Center, retired. And if I missed you, Leon Kish, who was here earlier, maybe the sound wasn't so hot at the time. Anyway, thank you to everybody. And unless there are any last words from you, Jimmy or Brian, I'm signing off.
Nice to meet everybody.
Good seeing you, Brian.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
All right.
You too.
Everybody have a great rest of the National Health IT Week.
Bye-bye.